this matchup, the Cowboys took on their division rivals, the Philadelphia Eagles, and took another shellacking. Another belt to tail. Another taken out to the woodshed. I told y'all before, when I was little, and some of you guys are the same way, and girls are the same way, my grandmother, when she got really upset at me or one of my brothers, she would make you go outside and get your switch. And you better not come back in here with a skinny one. You better bring back one of those whooping worthy switches. And grandma would tear you up. And that's what happened again for the Dallas Cowboys. The Philadelphia Eagles made the Cowboys at home go out and get the good switch. You better not come back in here with that little skinny twig of a switch. That's how my grandmother talked. She would grind her teeth together and you better not come back in here with another. And Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, they then commenced to give the Cowboys a third leg. And I'm not talking about that leg. I'm talking about, or 3 feet, however y'all want to say. I'm talking about the 2 that they got and the 1 that they put in their tail. Because they broke foot off in the Dallas Cowboys. And let me just give you some quick stats that are more than concerning. And it might make you want to turn off after you hear these things. But in the last 5 home games, this is dating back to the playoff game against the Green Bay Packers. In the last 5 home games, thank you for this stat, Bobby Belt. Entering the fourth quarter, the Dallas Cowboys in the last 5 home games, entering the fourth quarter, have trailed. They have lost these games as well. But let me give you the scores. In Green Bay, entering the fourth quarter, they were down 41-16. Against New Orleans, entering the fourth quarter, they were down 49-19. Against the Ravens, entering the fourth quarter, they were down 28-6. Against the Detroit Lions, who I may call America's team. I'll get more into that later on. The Detroit Lions, entering the fourth quarter, the Cowboys were down 37-9. Entering the fourth quarter against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Cowboys were down 28-6. 3 out of those 5 home games, the Cowboys have not scored a touchdown. In the last 2 games, the last 2 home games for the Cowboys, they have 10 turnovers and 0 touchdowns. In the last 2 games, the last 2 home games for the Cowboys, 10 turnovers and 0 touchdowns. The Cowboys at home this year are 0-4 at home. They've been outscored 153-59. They've been almost outscored by 100 points this year at home games. The Cowboys have had 3 home game losses by 25 plus points, tied for the most in franchise history. The Cowboys also in yesterday's game threw the ball for a combined 49 passing yards, the fewest in a game since 2001 against the Bucs, where they had 28 passing yards. The comedy of errors, the first time in franchise history on the losing end, has just continued to mount up for the Dallas Cowboys. And I do want to make and have a personal conversation, slight lightweight and attack on all of you, because there are some of you that were in the comments. There are some of you that hit me up on Twitter. There are some of you that hit me up on the chat rooms on all the other shows that I do. And there were a few of you, and there are still a lot of you who are haters of Dak Prescott. And cool, feel how you feel. I'm not here to change your thoughts or feelings on anything that you want to feel. Those are your feelings and your thoughts. Damn it, you have them. But there are a lot of you who were talking about, give me Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush was 5-1 and he did this, that, and the third. And shoot, I would have much rather seen Cooper Rush. This is going to get better with Cooper Rush. And that got the lineup. You got what you asked for. You got what you asked for. I told you guys a couple of years ago that what you saw in Cooper Rush during that whatever period it was more of an anomaly than it being a regularity. There aren't many backups in this league that come in here and are capable starters, because if they were, they'd be the starter. There's a reason that Cooper Rush is the backup. There's a reason that Cooper Rush will stay a backup. Nothing wrong with being the backup. I think the backup is the best job in the National Football League. To be a backup quarterback, Cooper Rush has been here for 7 years, and he's really only had to play in 7 games. 1 game a year when you break it all down. And he's 5-2 or 5-2. Yeah. Not bad. But this is what y'all asked for. So the thing that you guys are asking for, and then you got a chance to see Trey Lance, you got what you asked for. And you'll see more of Trey Lance later on down in the season. But I don't know what you guys keep trying to make this thing out about Dak Prescott not being a capable NFL quarterback. And I'll tell you this. Shame on y'all who was praying and asking for Cooper Rush, because, boy, was that bad. But I'll say this. As the Cowboys are watching today's film, and I watched a little bit of the game when I got home last night after my post-game show, and I was a little bit half asleep when I watched it. Then I watched it again after I worked out this morning, and the Cowboys should be kicking themselves a little bit, because if you watch that first half, boy, did the Philadelphia Eagles give them every opportunity to be in that game. The Cowboys had a really good run opportunity happening, run game that was going on. Rico Dowdle at the half had 10 carries for 50 yards. That's 5 yards a carry. I know I went to public school, high school, and college, but the math tells me that's 5 yards a carry. Your quarterback was throwing that 2.1 yards a throw. So you were almost doubling up on the run game what you were actually getting in the passing game. I'll tell you, you don't have to go and look. Rico Dowdle finished the game with 12 carries. Hear what I said. That at halftime, when it was 14-6, still very much in the game, you stopped them, they gave the ball back to you. Rico Dowdle went into the locker room at halftime, and he had 10 carries. The game wasn't out of reach. You were down 14-6. You were down 1 score. And you stopped them on the first 3 and out with 3 and out coming out of the half. Rico Dowdle finished the game. Went into halftime with 10 carries and 50 yards. He ended the game with 12 carries for 53 yards. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, gave you every opportunity. For the life of me, I do not understand. I cannot comprehend for you, Kellen DeMontre Moore, to have arguably in this season the second best or the 1B of running backs in the league. And you can say King Henry is 1 and Saquon right now is 2, or you can argue that Saquon 1 is King Henry is 2. Argue amongst yourselves. Leave it in the chat if you want to. But you got one of the 2 best running backs in the game right now. And you're going up against, you pick any metric you want. Average yards per game, average yards per carry, average yards expected to give up per run, whether the box is full or not. Like, you go to any defensive run metrics, and the Cowboys are either last or in the bottom 3 of the league. And you decided that you were going to pass the ball an ungodly amount of time in that first half, which led to your quarterback being sacked not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5 times in the first half, which led to your quarterback being strip sacked, fumbled, which led to your quarterback throwing an interception. If I came from the moon and logged into a computer on Earth and just looked at the box score, not the score, actual score, but the box statistics of the game, and I saw Jalen Hurts had that many passing attempts, I'll tell you what he had to have. It's right in, let me see here. Saquon finished with 20 passing attempts. I think he had 6 in the second half. So 14 passing attempts in the first half, and he would have had 5 sacks, an interception, and a fumble. I would have told you that the Cowboys are winning this game clear and smooth. That's what I would have believed. I would have believed that if that was the stat that I was looking at halftime, that the Cowboys were winning this game. And the defense showed up. They finally got Micah Parsons back. He was creating ruckus like he's supposed to. Damarian Overshown, who I am very, very high on right now, he went out a little bit with a knee injury. I hope that that's not something that's major. But you were getting the guys who you needed. Damarian Overshown was playing with his hair on fire. Micah was creating havoc. Trayvon Diggs found his hands and got an interception in that game. But offensively, you couldn't give your defense nothing. Your defense gave the offense the ball on the plus 10-yard line in Philadelphia's territory, going in to score. And they got 3. No, they didn't even get 3 on that particular drive. Zeke fumbled at the goal line. So instead of the game being 10-7, you fumbled it away. You fumbled it away. You gave the ball to Zeke again. And he fumbled. After you try to complete a pass in between 2 players, which they said they couldn't see because of the sun. We'll talk more about that. But feel how you feel. This football team is bad. It is bad, and if there's light at the end of this tunnel, it's a train. That's the light. Get off the track. There is no light at the end of this tunnel. Or that light is the season being over. Which then again, I don't know how much light that really is, because you get to go back into an offseason with an already front office that won't particularly do what you need them to do to acquire the talent. I don't know, and maybe we blame this on Brandon Carr. I don't know who else to blame it on, but something has spooked them so bad. And the last free agent signing that they had was Brandon Carr. That was the last big money free agent signing that they had, where they went out and they spent a ton of money. Again, and they used him to do something. They brought him in to play a different style of defense, which is crazy to me. But that almost feels like the front office needs therapy. It almost feels like something so traumatic that happened in your childhood that you just weren't able to shake. There were some trust issues. Sounds like one of my therapy sessions, actually. Because there was so much trust issues that I had as a child that I didn't trust people as an adult, man or woman. And it wasn't until I got some help that I was able to work myself through a place where I'm able to trust people now. But it feels like the Cowboys front office needs a serious therapy session, because the last time that they went into the offseason, and we've heard Jerry say, you would be shocked and amazed about the size of the check that I would write if it meant I got a Super Bowl. Well, you need players. And the Cowboys, overall, they've had some really big misses, right? Your Luke Schoolmakers come to mind. Your Mozzie Smith comes to mind. But they've had some really good drafts and developed some really good players. Trayvon Diggs developed into a pretty good player. If Deron Bland can come back from his foot injury, he was being sought out to be a really good draftee. And, you know, they've drafted Zach Martin and Tyron Smith. They drafted Zeke. Zeke was good. They found Dak Prescott in the 4th round. I mean, there are players littered all across this roster that they were drafted well and been able to be developed. Jordan Lewis, another name to come to mind. But it feels like there was something that happened in that last time that they actually went out and spent money in free agency that has scarred them. And you can't tell me about salary cap. You can't tell me about all that other stuff because I'm watching other teams in this league spend and build teams through free agency, through trades, through the offseason. I'm watching it happen. I'm watching it happen in real time. And so when you see that and you look up and you go, well, if you want to build the team, then go and play the money. Yeah, you paid money to Dak and you paid money to CD and you're getting ready to have to pay money to Micah. But those three aren't going to be enough. And you let guys go that were really good in this roster last year and thought that you want to just waltz into this season and have success. And you haven't. And this game was indicative of that again, because even when you had your defense play pretty good football, your offense was so bad that you scored 6 points. Thank God for Brandon Aubrey. Another thing that you probably found and developed. But look around the league. This thing is passing you by. Like in style, in performance, in acquisitions, it's passing the Cowboys by. And I'm sorry, and I hope that you continue to tune in because I need you to continue to tune in. But I don't see anything in sight as far as the rest of this season that leads me to believe that there's going to be any turnaround. I know what Trey Lance is. You ain't got to keep saying, we need to put him out there to see what he is. I know what he is. I saw it. I saw him throw 5 interceptions in the preseason in the red zone. 5. Against guys, with all due respect, who's selling insurance. The guys that he was playing against are selling insurance right now. How to all of my insurance agents. They're doing, the guys that he threw 5 interceptions to are getting their real estate license. Shout out to all my real estate people. The guys that he threw 5 interceptions to are working on a truck with their CDLs. I got my CDLs. Shout out to all the guys that got the CDLs and the gals, but the guys in particular. So what happens when you put him in with a real defense, with a real scheme? Yeah, he may be able to run around a little bit and pick up some yards. That ain't sustainable. And you guys are going to see. You're going to see because he's going to get a chance to play. And whether it's against Houston or whether it's Washington or New York, whoever it is, he's going to get a shot. He's going to get a full shot to go out there and play. And you're going to see what life is like for one of these backup guys that you guys have been begging for. What happens when they got to go play with the big boys and your team isn't complete. When Cooper Rush, and he didn't play that well back then, he just didn't make a lot of mistakes. Had a good running game, had a really good offensive line, had a top 10 defense. That matters. That matters. If Dak Prescott would have played in that game yesterday and everything went the exact same way, the Eagles would have been on their heels in the second half. Potentially maybe even losing. They may have edged one out at the end because they're just better talent-wise. But if Dak was playing, that game would have been different. That's the separating part about it. But if there was a positive that I took from this game, got to give love to my Tar Heels. Awesome Richards, who stepped in for Tyler Guyton. And I do want to say about Tyler Guyton, I heard Brian Broaddus say this, and I'm not saying that what Brian Broaddus is saying is true. I'm saying what Brian Broaddus said has happened before. Tyler Guyton missed another game where didn't hear much about. He was on the injury report, but you didn't hear much out throughout the week about him being not playing. And then you get to Sunday and he's not playing. Second time this year that this happened. Before with the knee, and now this one was like a neck, shoulder, stinger type situation. And Brian talked about the toughness from a kid that comes from college to the league, and knowing and understand the difference of being injured and being hurt. You see, when you hear the term all the time about becoming a professional, that just doesn't mean to do the right things, stay out of trouble, eat your vitamins and say your prayers. No. Being a professional also undertakes the thought process of knowing the difference between being injured and being hurt. Because, see, injured means you can't play. Hurt is what Zach Martin is right now. Now, that may be affecting his play, but Zach Martin is hurt with the shoulder arm injury. Injury means he can't play. And there may be some toughness called into question when you look at Tyler Guyton. And maybe some of that is youth, not really understanding how to push through things like that. I tell you time and time again, they got some good drugs over there in those football facilities. But for his sake, being able to go out there and play and help your team. Now, if you can't go, you can't go. But there's a huge difference and distinction between being injured and being hurt. Everybody hurt. It's week 9. What we at? Week 9, week 8, week 9. We're at the midpoint through the season. Everybody is dealing with something. Everybody has a shoulder, a knee, a back, an ankle, a foot. It's week 10. Everybody's dealing with something. Everybody. Look right there on your offensive line. There's a bunch of folks out there dealing with something. You got to be able to differentiate the two. And if your teammates can't count on you, that's a tough road to toe. And then you give a guy like Austin Richards an opportunity to come in and actually play well. Now, will he be able to beat you out for a spot? No, you're a first-round pick, so they're going to give you every opportunity. But what they won't give you too much longer is the benefit of the doubt. And they'll start looking for ways to replace you eventually. But this Cowboys team, man, it's just a flat-out bad football team. I don't know what more to say about it. When you don't have a quarterback, this is the result. You look across the league, man, quarterback is important. It is the sole reason why you will win a lot of football games, or you'll lose a lot of football games, depending on how that position plays. And this team is bad. And I hope it wakes up the front office. I hope that they are able to look at this and say, we need better. We need to change. And of course, inevitably, we begin the conversation now about the clock is on. With 7 weeks, 8 weeks left in the NFL season, how much longer will Mike McCarthy be employed? Leave your thoughts in the chat. How many more weeks do you think? I personally think, and now Jerry has come out and he says, I regret firing Chan Gailey, and I regret firing Wade Phillips in the middle of the season. I still regret those in-season firings, and he reassures us over and over and over again that Mike McCarthy's safe. Right now, with 7 weeks left in the season, I did the math earlier. Mike McCarthy was guaranteed $5 million this year. With 7 games left in the season, $5 million broken down over 17 weeks, he's due just a little bit over $2 million. Now, is that money that Jerry's worried about? I don't know. But if you have a guy that you felt like he has lost the locker room, which I think he has, let him go. Let him go. Put someone else in the interim spot for the last couple of weeks. and just ride it out with that. Maybe you make Zim your interim head coach and then appoint Al Harris your defensive coordinator. Give Al Harris a look and see what he looks like at the defensive coordinator spot. But you would be, in my opinion, a plumb fool if you think that at the end of this season, if not before, this is like the last year for Mike McCarthy. There's no way he can come back. You will lose a ton of people in your fan base, and you will lose whatever locker room you had left. And that's been the topic of discussion today on when does the Black Friday or Monday or whatever day that Mike McCarthy will lose his job. I said November 29th. That's one day after Thanksgiving. That heads into the bye. That mini bye that they have that weekend after coming off that Thanksgiving game, it gives you a couple more days to kind of prepare for what the next week will have. And then you'll have 4 games or 5 games in December. You can start your search. You can get a good look at some other guys on your staff. I mean, what's a couple dollars, right? To Jerry. And speaking of, let me do the CD comments first. In that game, you saw a play in the game where CD was thrown a pass, and it went between 2 of the defenders, and then you see CD kind of go like, I couldn't see it. Then he came out after the game, and they asked him about it, and he said, I couldn't see the ball. He said, was it the sun? He said, yeah, most definitely. And the reporters asked CD Lamb about, how do you feel about, are you in play or are you game for a curtain being put up? CD said emphatically 1,000%. So the reporter asked CD, well, why don't you say anything, to Jerry about it? And he's like, this is what you guys are doing for me right now. Like I'm telling you that I don't, like, it's a glare. It's there. And Jerry vehemently denies it and tells you it's a 50-50 thing that the other team has to deal with it as well. It's an advantage that he thinks that the Cowboys have, whatever. But it's clearly an issue. And, not cutting him any bail, because I know a lot of you say they do it for monster trucks and concerts and boxing matches. And I'll tell you that once those places rent out the stadium, they have the option not to put the curtain up. They decided they want to put it up. And Jerry has the same option. But for whatever reason, his baby, his $1 billion baby, he refuses to put up the curtain. Whatever. If your team and your players are telling you that this is something that bothers them, I don't know the levels or the reasons why you would be as stubborn as you are about it and not give them what they ask for in those moments like that. But it's an issue. And maybe if you score in that position, I don't know if that changes the outcome of the game, but it does change that game in the moment. You take the lead. You now kick the ball off, and maybe you get a fumble again. You make them have to drive the length of the field. Like, the things can change when you score. Your momentum is there. The crowd's into it. Everybody's feeling a little bit more amped. The more pressure is down put on the Philadelphia Eagles. But what the hell do I know?